Good evening. Thank you for joining me this evening. It's Charlie from Silence to Talkies, and I want to thank you so much for tuning in to my first video, which you can either be watching on Instagram or on my YouTube channel. Wherever you're watching it, I want to thank you so much for tuning in and giving me your attention. If you're here, I hope you enjoy film as much as I do, whether it be just film in general, classic film, silent film, specifically 1930s film, specifically 1920s film, any kind of film you love. I want to be there to talk to you about it because I love film and I'm crazy about it. I've been obsessed with specifically classic film since I was probably a very young child, since watching the VHS tapes we owned, The Wizard of Oz and Meet Me in St. Louis. I've been obsessed ever since. When I was in middle school and high school, I would check out dozens of classic films on VHS tapes at a time, usually all black and white, and watch them and just talk to my entire family about them and drive them crazy. Well, now I'm here talking to you, and hopefully you are sharing my enthusiasm with some of this filmdom that I've been researching. A little bit about my background. Like I said, my name is Charlie, and I hope you all are having a great evening. I am sometimes an actor, sometimes a teacher, sometimes a writer, sometimes a director. I sing sometimes, and sometimes I am a freelance film historian. If that's even a thing. I hope it is, and that's what we're going to find out with these videos. Anyways, I have studied theater, history, art history, museum management, historic preservation, all of these subjects in college and grad school. And I've also worked in the museum field and in the film archiving and preservation field, in addition to the theatrical field and the field of film. What this channel is. So, like I said, with the name Silence to Talkies, you probably assume correctly that I'm going to be talking about silent stars and their transition to the talking pictures of the 1930s. Now, that's kind of a loaded statement because there aren't just stars who made it and stars who did not make it. There is a lot of different layers of different levels of careers that went from the advent of talking pictures in 1927 to the complete kind of crossover to all talking pictures by 1930. Because you don't just have people who made it or who didn't. You have all kinds of different levels. And specifically, I'm going to be talking about those silent stars who did make it, crossed over into talking pictures, were at the top for a few years, and then poof, lost it. And I want to know what happened and why. Now, these kind of actors and actresses had been huge stars in the late 1920s and then had suitable voices for talking pictures, made a couple of successful leading role star vehicle talking pictures, and either poof, retired, poof, somehow slipped into B-movies, poofed, just made supporting movies and extra parts and then retired, or just walked away completely. And I'm here to investigate who they are and why this happened. Now, as much as I love all of the silent actors who made their transition to talking pictures and kept it and continued to be stars for decades, that's not really who I'm going to be talking about here. I might later if I have time. So I'm not going to be talking about people that made it, like Joan Crawford, or Greta Garbo, or Janet Gaynor, or Bebe Daniels, or Mary Astor, Norma Shearer, Warner Baxter, William Powell, Gary Cooper, George O'Brien, Reginald Denny, Hoot Gibson, or Buster Keaton. Or even character actors like Zazu Pitts, who still was a star even as a character actress into the 1960s. I'm also not going to be talking about people that while they didn't make a lot of talking pictures in the 30s, they maintained their stardom just from continuously being a part of the public eye and made huge successes in talking pictures later. People like Gloria Swanson and Charlie Chaplin. I'm also not going to be talking about people that made the transition from silent to talkies, were still stars, and then unfortunately had untimely deaths because we just don't know what would have happened. People like Gene Eagles and Lon Chaney made the successful jump from silence to talkies, but died before they could really see where their career could go in the talkies. Now, you may be asking yourself now, who the heck are you going to be talking about? Well, I've been doing a lot of research lately, just because I love to research film. I have found, and where I've been researching, I have two books by Daniel Bloom that are usually out of print and only available to get on Amazon Used or wherever you may find them, a new pictorial history of the talkies and a new pictorial history of the silent screen, and I hope they are not backwards when I play this video for you, but you get the gist if they are. They have thousands of pages in both of them about anyone you could possibly think of that was ever in a movie from 1901 through 1950. Check those books out if you want to see film stills. They also will show you who the stars were in each year of the silent era going into the talkies. I also did a lot of research on the Internet Movie Database. IMDb is my best internet friend. It is a wonderful website. Particularly whenever I watch a movie on TCM, which is usually daily, I then research it on IMDb after I watch it and find out who some of the supporting characters and or bit parts and or uncredited extras were and see if those people had acted before. To make a long story short, I have been trying to figure out which actors and actresses apply to what I want to talk about on this channel from the 1920s to the early 1930s. From my research, I have found that 135 female identifying actresses and 131 male identifying actors made the transition from silent stardom to talkie picture stardom and then suddenly lost it within a few years. And I want to make a video about each of them and figure out why. Now, some of these people have included William Haynes, John Gilbert, Evelyn Prier, and the woman that started this interest for me, Betty Compson. Betty Compson was a huge silent star of the 20s, reinvented herself and her image a couple of times, made a talking picture called The Barker, got a Best Actress Oscar nomination in 1929 for it, continued to star in several more movies into the 30s. Suddenly she slipped into supporting roles, and then suddenly she was gone. She lived for several more years, and I want to know what happened. So, that's what I'm going to be talking about. Some other interesting research that I have figured out from doing my research. I need to figure out some better words to say when I'm doing this. Maybe use a thesaurus. When I talked about people like Joan Crawford and William Powell before, it was interesting to compare the number of male and female identifying actors that made it from silent film stardom to talking picture stardom and kept it. Because 83 silent film stars and counting. None of my numbers are complete. This is just the number of people I've researched up till now. 83 male identifying stars made the transition from silence to talkies and kept it for several years into the 1940s and so on. While only 38 female identifying actors that I could count did the same, which is very interesting. In contrast, 82 more I'm going to discover, I'm sure, female identifying actresses made the transition from silent to talkies, but only in a supporting role and or extra and or bit part capacity. Whereas 156 and counting male identifying actors had made the transition from silent to talkies and kept working in a supporting or bit part capacity. The number of female actors compared to the number of male actors is honestly quite concerning, and that's something we're going to investigate on this page. I hope you're still with me and that I haven't been boring you for, oh my gosh, it's been 8 minutes and 45 seconds. But that's what I'm going to be talking about on this page. My next video will be all about Betty Compson, who I mentioned earlier, and investigating her career from the teens through her Oscar nomination for The Barker to her lovely film in 1931, The Lady Refuses, and then so on and so forth until she slips into obscurity, and I'm going to figure out what happened to Betty. Thank you so much for tuning in with me this evening. I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you very much.